Rick Johnson returns to 100 Huntley Street on this Father's Day emphasis week where we talk about the importance of dads. He has written now almost a dozen books related to parenting and healthy relationships between moms and daughters and sons and dads and daughters and sons. And coming up, by the way, in just a few more months, in the month of September, he has a new book out called 10 Things Great Dads Do. Don't have the book yet. It's still in the publishing, printing process. But we are thrilled to have you here because, you know, not only have you written this recent book, but you've got a long line of books here that you've written about what dads are in the lives of kids, how important. You've got a song called That's My Son. You've got a book called That's My Son, another called Better Dads, another called Stronger Sons. And then I thought it would be helpful today, and I'm a little biased because you and I have daughters, right?
Right.
So why don't we talk a little bit about what it's like to have emotionally healthy daughters. You've written a book called Becoming the Dad Your Daughter Needs. What does a daughter need from dad?
Well, I think a daughter needs a dad who loves her unconditionally, a dad who is willing to fight for her. We do every year we do a father-daughter conference, and it's for dads and teen daughters, because we see the breaks in fathers and daughters generally happens the most during puberty. And that's the time when daughters actually need their dads the most. Right. So what we do is we bring in these dads and daughters, and of course, the daughters don't want to be there, and the dads are pretty apprehensive when we first start, so they're sitting far apart. And as we go through the day, they get closer and closer until we finally have a father blessing at the end, which is a very powerful event. But one of the things that the daughters say the most on their comments is that they are heartbroken because their fathers didn't love them enough to fight for them. And what they mean by that is that, especially with teen daughters, they have emotional ups and downs, they have fits, they'll scream things like, I hate you, they'll stomp off. And what they do is they know how to emotionally manipulate dad to get what they want, right? And a lot of dads will capitulate, allow them to do whatever they want, even if it's not good for them. They know that, though, and what they do is they think that their dads don't love them enough to fight for them, to stand up to them, to hold them to those boundaries that they know are healthy for them.
My wife and I have been married almost 35 years, and she still tells me that when she was in this age group that you described, that the most powerful parenting moment her dad had in her life was when he came to her defense. I don't need to get into the details of that, but it was where he had a righteous anger, and he stood up and said, no, that's not going to happen. Right. You're not going down this particular road with this particular relationship. To this day, as a woman now in her mid-50s, she remembers that moment when dad stood up to defend her.
Right.
Really is important.
Well, I think my daughters told me that the thing that really was the biggest influence for her, she had our car once and had gotten in an altercation. Somebody had actually came up and smashed her window, and she called, and the very first thing I said was, "Are you okay?"
Are you okay? Yeah.
And she remembers that as if Dad would have had a refurbished muscle car,
like what?
It's like, well, if it had been a refurbished muscle car, I might have had a different response, right? But no, the point is that I'm showing her that I love her, and that's what daughters need. They need dads that, because we model for them how a man loves a woman. That's right. We model healthy male sexuality. How a man loves a woman. I mean, all these different things that we model that girls who don't have dads don't ever learn that, and they're left with what they see on television, what they see in the movies,
social media,
which are very unhealthy things about what it means to be a man and a woman.
You write in the book, a daughter is a gift from God. She needs to be treasured, nurtured, and even protected by her father. God has placed within a daughter's heart the inherent desire, even need, to love and respect her father. So when that isn't happening, something's wrong.
Well, and I think that's probably politically incorrect in our culture, that dads need to protect their daughters even as they get older. But absolutely, I think it's more important for our daughters to respect us than it is to love us. Not that it's not important that they love us, but and not only because it's what we need, respect, but I think that they make healthy choices when they respect their father. And there are times when my daughter didn't like me, because I had to make choices. But I think she always respected me. She knew that I had her best interest.
So are you saying that there were moments that you and your daughter had tense moments in your relationship as a teenager?
We in polite company say that our daughter was a very strong-willed child, right? And I document all through this book. We had some very incredible experiences.
How important is humor with your daughter? When you're, because I found my daughter, when she was especially early teens, there was so much drama.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness, there was just emotion and drama. I found humor helped with my
Right.
daughter Mary Alice, and we can remember some of the best moments, if you will, with her was around the table,
Right.
and she'd have that moment, and her brother and I would, have some fun with that, and she can laugh about it today.
Well, I think surveys show that for kids, both boys and girls of all ages, the thing they appreciate most about their dads is a sense of humor. And I think what we're showing our kids is that even though life can be difficult sometimes, and even though we make mistakes, if we can still laugh, especially at ourselves, that everything is okay, that dad's kind of got everything under control if he's not freaked out, if he's got a sense of humor about things.
Rick, are there some subjects dads shouldn't talk to their daughters about, or is just everything pretty much out there,
Well,
or that dads should not be afraid to talk about?
We talked about physical affection, and I think our daughters need that. But when they go into different stages, like into puberty, I think a lot of times they're a little bit freaked out about their sexuality. Certainly, as dads, we're a little bit freaked out about it, and I think we have to respect that. For instance, when my daughter, she all of a sudden didn't want me to touch her, and I had to be respectful about that, but I had to let her know that if she did need, I was there for a hug or whatever. Once she turned 17, 18, and the aliens left her body, then she wanted to have that kind of physical affection again. But during that time period, there were certain things that
a little rigid and
a little
tight,
uncomfortable
yeah,
talking
yeah.
about. But no, I think maybe the things that we're most uncomfortable about talking about, sex, those types of things, are exactly the things that we need to talk to our daughters about. They need to hear our experiences from a man's perspective, what males are like, what they're looking for, things like that.
So you and I are both grandfathers. I think you have a granddaughter that's 3.
Right.
My granddaughter is just turning 1. Now that we're grandfathers and we can coach our sons as part, it's important early on to have that love and affection for that little baby, and as they become toddlers, for them to feel that dad's love at that level.
I absolutely think so, and I think when I was a young father, and I think many young fathers maybe feel this way, is that when they're little like that, mom is more important than dad is, and mom certainly is very important at that stage. But I think you're absolutely right. I think that physical affection, that dad playing with the kids on the floor develops so many things physically, mentally, emotionally, develops neural pathways in their brain, allows them to take risks, healthy risks. Those provided we throw, we catch them when we throw them up,
That's important.
Yeah, it is, yeah. But, those are things that they learn from dad. Those are things that are very important for them to be successful in life with.
You're right. The most important thing is for you to make sure your daughter knows you love her. She derives self-esteem and value from what you speak into her heart. In our last few minutes, talk about the absolute importance of unconditional love for your daughter.
Well, I think it's imperative for our daughters to know that no matter the mistakes that they make, that their dad still loves her. I had an interesting experience happen with my wife and I. Were driving down the road one day and we were listening to the radio, and this woman was on the radio talking about how her husband had left her with 4 little kids under the age of 6, and how heartbroken she was, how difficult it was. She felt she couldn't go on. She was praying to God, and she heard God say to her, she said, I can't go on. And God said to her, what can you do? And she said, well, maybe I could, sarcastically said, well, maybe I could do the dishes. And she heard God say, well, then do the dishes, sweet baby girl, and let me handle the rest. And I looked over, my wife was crying, and I'm like, why are you crying? And she's like, because I didn't have a dad growing up. I can't imagine a heavenly father who calls me a sweet baby girl. And I said, well, maybe it's a Southern thing, right? Because I'm kind of clueless.
Yeah.
And she said, no. She said, you call our daughter sweet baby girl all the time. So when we got home, she was telling this story to my daughter. And before she got to that part, my daughter said, "Daddy calls me a sweet baby girl all the time." And she proceeded to tell my wife about this card I gave her, which I didn't even remember. Yeah. She has on the mirror in her bathroom in her apartment that she reads every day. And I don't even remember what it says, but it's signed, "Love you, sweet baby girl, love Daddy."
Yeah.
And my love, my unconditional love for her directly reflects a Heavenly Father's love.
Well, full disclosure, in case my 26-year-old daughter is watching this, she would want me to tell you that she to this day is called by me sweet baby girl. SBG is the way I text it.
I do too.
I love my sweet baby girl. Yeah. It's so good to have you here.
Yes, thank you.
So where can people go to find out about your work and what you're doing? I know that the Revell, REVELL.com website is your publisher. Do you have any website that we'll put on the screen?
We have a website, www.betterdads.net.
All right.
And they can find out all our books, all our resources, all sorts of, more than they ever wanted to know about me and Better Dads.
Well, we are so glad you've taken time to be with us.